The old macabre manor stood at the end of Harbinger Lane, a skeletal silhouette against the dying light. Its once grand structure now crumbled and decayed, a ghost of its former self. The manor had a reputation, whispered about in hushed tones, a place where shadows seemed to move on their own and the air was thick with an unspoken dread. Its shattered windows, like empty eyes, watched the five friends approach. The glass, long since broken, lay scattered like forgotten memories, and the wooden frames creaked in the wind, as if the house itself was groaning in pain. Liam, the self-proclaimed leader, pushed open the rusted gate. The metal protested with a loud screech echoing through the stillness of the evening. He turned to his friends with a confident grin, masking the unease that gnawed at his insides. Beside him, Emily, the skeptic, scoffed at the stories surrounding the house. "It's just an old building," she said, though her voice wavered slightly. She had always prided herself on her rationality, but even she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. There was Chris, the quiet observer, who seemed to absorb every detail with a calm detachment. And then Maya and Ben, the adventurous couple always seeking a thrill. They exchanged excited glances, their hands tightly clasped together, ready for whatever lay ahead. The air turned colder as they stepped onto the overgrown path. Weeds and wild grass brushed against their legs, and the scent of damp earth filled their nostrils. It was as if the path itself was warning them to turn back. Dead leaves crunched under their feet, the only sound louder than their nervous laughter. Each step seemed to echo in the silence, amplifying their trepidation. The laughter, though meant to be reassuring, only highlighted their growing fear. A palpable silence hung over the house, broken only by the distant cawing of crows. The birds seemed to be the only living creatures brave enough to linger near the manor, their cries a haunting soundtrack to the unfolding night. This place held a darkness that felt ancient, heavy and inescapable. It was as if the very walls were steeped in sorrow and secrets, waiting to ensnare anyone who dared to uncover them. The friends stood at the threshold, their hearts pounding, knowing that once they crossed it, there would be no turning back. "They say no one has lasted the night in 50 years, Liam said, his voice hushed but excited. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air like a dense fog. Each friend felt a mix of thrill and trepidation, the kind that only comes with the unknown, a challenge, thinly veiled as a statement. Emily rolled her eyes, but a flicker of fear passed through them. She tried to mask her unease with a scoff, but the tension was palpable. The others exchanged glances, a silent conversation of daring and doubt. Chris, ever the pragmatist, pointed out the obvious dangers of a crumbling structure. "It's not just ghosts we need to worry about," he said, "but the very real risk of the building collapsing." His words were a sobering reminder of the physical dangers that lay ahead. But Maya and Ben, their eyes gleaming with anticipation, were already pushing past Liam, eager to delve into the mystery. Their excitement was infectious, and soon the group found themselves at the threshold of the old mansion, hearts pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. The heavy oak door creaked open, releasing a gust of stale, dusty air. It was as if the house itself was exhaling after years of holding its breath. The sound echoed through the empty halls, a haunting welcome to the brave souls who dared to enter. Cobwebs draped the foyer like macabre decorations, and the faint scent of decay lingered in the air. The walls, once grand, were now peeling and cracked, telling tales of neglect and time's relentless march. Every step they took stirred up clouds of dust, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Despite their initial bravado, a shiver ran down Emily's spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that the house was aware of their presence. Her friends' uneasy expressions mirrored her own growing apprehension. The house felt alive, its silence pregnant with unseen eyes and unheard whispers. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside seemed amplified, as if the house was communicating in its own ghostly language. They moved cautiously, each step a test of their courage, each shadow a potential threat. The thrill of the dare was now mingled with a very real sense of danger, making every moment inside the mansion a test of their resolve. As dusk deepened, shadows stretched and twisted, taking on monstrous forms in the flickering light of their torches. The friends explored the decaying grandeur of the manor, each room a testament to forgotten lives and lingering sorrow. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, too faint to decipher but impossible to ignore. Then came the first sign. A cold spot settled over them in the drawing room, the air thick with a sudden inexplicable dread. Emily swore she saw a figure vanish down the hallway, a fleeting glimpse of a woman in a white gown. Her laughter was shaky as she dismissed it, but the others exchanged uneasy glances. Something was wrong. The game of exploration turned into a frantic search when Emily vanished. One moment she was there, laughing at a shadow Liam swore looked like a ghoul. The next, gone. They called her name, their voices echoing through the empty halls, each unanswered call tightening the knot of fear in their stomachs. Panic set in. It was Ben, his face pale and drawn, who found Emily's phone lying discarded on the floor. The screen was cracked, displaying a distorted image of her own terrified face. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper, and the house seemed to press in on them, a predator toying with its prey. They found themselves back at the rusted gate, the dying light of dusk painting the sky in hues of blood orange and bruised purple. Disbelief warred with a chilling sense of déjà vu. Liam's earlier words echoed in their ears. No one has lasted the night. This time it was Maya who spotted Emily's phone, the cracked screen a cruel reminder of their horrifying reality. They were trapped, forced to relive the same horrifying hours, each time culminating in Emily's disappearance. The fear, once a thrilling undercurrent, morphed into a suffocating terror. They were caught in a loop, a terrifying cycle with no escape. Section 6. Unmasking the Horror. With each loop the whispers grew louder, the shadows more defined. The woman in white was a constant presence, her sorrowful eyes reflecting their growing despair. They were no longer just exploring a haunted house, they were living the same nightmare over and over again. Then came the understanding. Clues, previously overlooked, now screamed their significance. A diary hidden under floorboards revealed the tragic tale of the manor's former mistress, driven mad by grief after her lover's untimely demise. She, the woman in white, was trapped too, bound to the house by her sorrow and rage. Section 7. Descent into madness. The relentless cycle chipped away at their sanity. Sleep offered no escape, only nightmares that bled seamlessly into their waking hours. Liam, once so sure of himself, became withdrawn, his eyes haunted by a terror he couldn't outrun. Chris, the rational one, clung desperately to logic, but even he couldn't deny the chilling reality of their situation. Maya and Ben, their initial excitement replaced by a bone-deep exhaustion, clung to each other for comfort. Their love, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a shared burden, a testament to their shared fate. The house was breaking them slowly and deliberately. Section 8. The inevitable return. Each time they reached the rusted gate, the hope of escape flickered and died. The setting sun felt like a cruel joke, marking the beginning and end of their torment. They were puppets, dancing to the tune of a malevolent force, their every move predetermined, their fate sealed. The manor loomed over them, a monstrous entity feeding on their fear. There was no outrunning it, no reasoning with it. The loop had become their prison, the terror their constant companion. They were living the same few hours for eternity, their screams echoing through the empty halls, unheard and unanswered. Section 9. Forever lost in the loop. The last loop began like all the others, with the dying light and the rusted gate, The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly, as if trying to escape the inevitable repetition. The gate, once a symbol of entry and exit, now stood as a monument to their entrapment, its rusted bars a reminder of the time that had passed and the time that would never change. Resignation had replaced their fear, their faces etched with the exhaustion of 1,000 lifetimes lived in terror. Each wrinkle, each line told a story of countless nights spent in dread, of days filled with futile attempts to break free. They had tried everything, rituals, prayers, even science, but nothing could sever the loop that bound them. They knew what awaited them. Emily's disappearance, the chilling discovery of her phone, the descent into madness. And then silence. The phone, a relic of their past attempts to communicate with the outside world, lay abandoned, its screen cracked and lifeless. It was a grim reminder of their isolation, a symbol of their severed connection to reality. The loop reset, but they were no longer alone. The presence of the woman in white had changed everything. She was a ghostly figure, an enigma that added a new layer of complexity to their already convoluted existence. Her sorrowful eyes seemed to hold the weight of centuries, and her presence was both a comfort and a curse. The woman in white stood before them, her sorrowful eyes fixed on Emily. It was as if she saw something in Emily that the others couldn't, a connection that transcended the loop. Her gaze was intense, filled with a mixture of sorrow and hope, as if she believed that Emily held the key to their salvation. A cold hand reached out, and Emily, her face a mask of fear, took it. The touch was icy, sending shivers down her spine, but there was also a strange sense of familiarity, as if she had done this before. The others watched in silent horror, knowing that this moment would lead to another cycle of despair. They vanished together, swallowed by the shadows, their screams lost in the echoing silence of the manor. The darkness was all-consuming, a void that erased their existence from the world. The manor, with its ancient walls and haunted corridors, seemed to absorb their terror, feeding on their fear. The loop continued, but for Liam, Chris, Maya, and Ben, there would be no escape. They were trapped in a cycle of endless repetition, each loop a mirror of the last, with only minor variations that offered no real hope. Their lives had become a series of predictable horrors, a nightmare from which they could not awaken. They were forever bound to macabre manor, their laughter and terror forever echoing through its halls. The manor had become their prison, its walls a constant reminder of their fate. The laughter, once a sign of joy, now sounded hollow and eerie, mingling with the whispers of the past. The terror, ever present, was a constant companion, a shadow that followed them through every loop, every moment, every breath.